Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical, where we talk about the mental, emotional, social, and at times spiritual benefits of exercise. We believe that exercise is more than movement, and this podcast is our attempt at sharing that message with the world by sharing our own as well as our guests' experiences and knowledge. If you enjoy it, we ask that you please spread the message by leaving a rating and review, or even better, by sharing with a friend. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical. It's good to have you back, Matt.
Hi, good to be back.
It's a good week. It's a double week.
Lovely weather.
I think we're feeling a mixture of tired and inspired. And what other way would you like to feel on a Friday afternoon in beautiful Sea Point with the calm breeze and the Bergie? The young Bergie wind, baby. That Bergie wind is like, it's really here. Because there's rain tomorrow. When it rains, it pours. Death's got to be easy because life is hard. It'll leave you physically, mentally, and emotionally scarred. A wise man, 50 Cent, once said that. But on a serious note, we've picked up a couple of articles again from Fit Insider, which we love, which you should go check out, by the way. It's a great resource for the health industry and the kind of commercial trends and just kind of consumer behavior related stuff in there. But the headline that jumped out the most at me, and where I actually saw it first was not on Fit Insider. I saw it on Instagram first. Okay. And it's a big play by a company called David. They make protein bars. And not just any protein bars. They make extremely high protein, so 28 grams of protein per bar. Cool. And what I believe is 160 calories, so very low calorie as well, protein bars. And what makes them special from my point of view and how they caught my attention was Peter Attia. For those of you who don't know Peter Attia, he is a medical doctor who specializes in lifestyle-related interventions, so things to do with exercise, which is quite rare in the medical industry. He is a former ultra-endurance swimmer. He is obsessed with cycling. He loves the Tour de France. He's big into zone 2 training. He's big into resistance training. And he's a very, very clever guy. He's a very knowledgeable guy. Matt, I've seen, has had Outlive, Peter Attia's recently released book on the go. Peter Attia's got an awesome podcast called The Drive, which has a lot of very, very useful information available on it. A lot of it is quite technical, so you might need to listen to those episodes once or twice or three or four times before you actually understand, because you'll go through it, hear a word, Google it, come back.
Exactly.
But he's an industry expert who's a practitioner, and he's got the kind of, formal education behind him. Who, long story short, has now been appointed as the chief medical officer at this company, David.
Oh, interesting.
And he's an investor too. And he posted, so David basically just announced they've kind of finished their first round of funding, or their seed round. And I saw that Peter Attia was chatting about that on his Instagram. And I think that immediately just did a huge amount for their legitimacy for me. Yeah. Because I knew Attia was behind them. So I'm kind of like, okay, this is interesting. And I went into the comment section and I saw Andrew Huberman. Dr. Andrew Huberman had commented as well. And he was kind of like passing some comments around David, the protein bar company, and also said that he's an investor. And I thought that it was said in jest, to be honest. I thought he was joking, like taking the piss out of Peter Attia. But turns out he's apparently also put money into the company. He's one of the early investors, obviously, in their seed round. And that's what's kind of set this company apart, is in the fitness industry, trust is something that is very difficult to build, because there's a lot of bullshit out there. There are a lot of kind of predatory fads and marketing things and products, and I think with people like Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman behind a product like David, or a company like David, it creates quite a bit of excitement. And both Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman talk a lot about the role of resistance training and also zone 2 kind of cardiovascular exercise in preventing cardiovascular disease and metabolic dysfunction and metabolic disease, like insulin resistance, aka different kinds of diabetes. And them getting behind a product like this makes that really interesting, because it aligns with their vision of trying to make things available that can help people still have a tasty treat. Oh, also the product is not, apparently it's artificial flavor free too. So it ticks a bunch of boxes in that regard, but their whole vision is around helping people mitigate the risks of these, lifestyle related diseases. And I know in Outlive, he talks about like the major kinds of disease, something like it's like cardiovascular, metabolic, and then there are a couple of other ones. I'm not sure if you can remember exactly what they were, but it's quite promising to see that there are,
steps being taken
there's
to
steps.
kind of like sustainably fight against this, as opposed to any, to add on to that, or to complete your sentence, like steps are being taken to like combat what we have seen in terms of a trend where people just depending on medication to kind of like save their health or prevent any further health risks from taking place, where there's other ways that you can do it, whether it's changing what you eat, changing how you move. And I think that they're doing a massive thing by getting behind this, and hopefully it does do well. And kind of like, I know that there was another thing in terms of like they are trying to make it as accessible as possible to a lot of people, and I think that's going to be massive because it's going to be quality. If they're all backing it, I know that it must be quality, and if people can access it, then it's going to change the game.
Yes.
And also the perception of fitness supplementation or fitness kind of products. It will kind of like call out what is not good, and you'll see what's true for what's true.
Yes, and I think the legitimacy of what these two guys kind of, what they speak about is obviously they are. Well, actually, Andrew Huberman is not a medical professional. Dr. Andrew Huberman is a professor of neuroscience at Stanford.
Yeah.
But what makes him reputable is he's obviously published papers, peer-reviewed papers. He's a trusted voice in the space. And, he's very well researched around a number of different topics. And obviously, he's a guy that, in his personal capacity, puts a lot of effort into keeping healthy. And also, just to correct myself, the... Peter Attia's position at the company is a chief science officer. So it's interesting because they kind of consider themselves as a food tech startup, and that's quite for me an interesting way to position themselves because they are like a consumer product.
Yes.
But I guess what's cool about that is obviously it's kind of. I think the tech side of it is probably that they're doing things that people haven't done before, using cutting edge science and technology to advance the products that they use. And I think it's important because it falls into that constant topic we speak about is, the systems that we exist in make it quite difficult to live healthily.
Yeah.
So what can we do to kind of lower the barriers to entry to living healthily? And I think a part of that is, giving alternative options. Like we don't want to eat poorly if we have the choice, which we do have the choice of.
Yeah.
But if there are a bunch of sweet treat options, and there isn't a kind of a healthy alternative, you're most likely just going to go for your existing option.
Especially if you need it. Like there's a lot of times we're in a position where you can't kind of access what you want, and you need something there and then. And I tell my clients this a lot of times, like sometimes you're not going to be in the position where you can get exactly what you need and the best kind of whole option in terms of getting that nutrition in. But that's why we do meal prep, and that's why we plan ahead of time. And if you can't, and if you do have to go for an option which is not as ideal as your initial one, it's fine as well, because it's technically we shouldn't have options that are out there. If you think of it like from a society point of view, we shouldn't have options out there that are harmful to us.
Absolutely.
All the options should actually be helpful.
Yes.
But that's not how it works.
But that falls into what we chatted about in the episode about what exactly were we talking about. We recorded it this week, but effectively the topic we got onto was what is the role of the corporation
Exactly.
in fostering a healthy environment. And obviously there's the moral imperative. It's the right thing to do, or we'd hope that it's what we believe as a society to be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that is oftentimes not the thing at the forefront of these companies, because a lot of companies, they'll say they are values driven and values led, but either those values don't support healthy living, or they aren't really. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like their values don't really encapsulate that. Like, think about I've listened to an episode of Founders. I listened to plenty of episodes of Founders. It's a really cool podcast around entrepreneurship. And they speak about how the culture at, I think it was Marlboro or Camel or one of the cigarette companies, how those employees believe in, the value of free choice and doing what you want.
Okay.
And their whole company mission and vision and everything is centered around, we will do what we want to do. Like, that is our ethos. And for them, obviously that doesn't underpin anything to do really with health and wellness, and that's fine. But that's a threat to people whose values are kind of, I suppose, trying to be healthy. But then again, would they smoke? I don't know. But it makes it a more difficult landscape to navigate as a person trying to live a healthy lifestyle, because there are all these products kind of available that won't support living a healthy lifestyle and making healthy choices.
There's a big percentage of products that won't give you what you're looking for, as opposed to like the small amount of products that will give you what you're looking for. And often they're not like the ones that are on top of the shelves. They don't have the best advertising. They're almost like a bit in the background.
Yes.
But they're really good quality products. Like, I'm pretty sure you've also been at certain points. I mean, we do it all the time here at the gym, but like, you go to the shops, you go grocery shopping, and you get something, you're like, I don't know how I've not seen this before, but it's so good. I always see these, like, for example, if you're looking for sauces and you're looking through the sauce aisle, and normally you go for a certain sauce, but then this time you just try out something different by chance, and you look at the nutritional guidelines and you're like, wow, this is so much better, it tastes so much better, and it's more affordable, but it's just not spoken about enough.
Yes, it doesn't get the visibility.
And then you also go into the other conversation when these products do get like that traffic, do they keep the recipe the same, or do they change it to become like to the point where they're actually making it like on a mass scale and the quality drops? So that's also another danger that comes into a lot of these companies. Like, they can start off really well, and then when the traffic picks up and they like kind of aim for just making it on a mass scale, then the quality drops, and then someone has to find a different thing, or the price goes up, and then it's like, it makes it harder for that person to now consistently buy in. But that's also why there has to be that constant value add. And also why, if something works, you just have to stick to it, I guess.
Yes. And I mean, I think what is positive about this, articles like this one, seeing very prominent figures in the health space managing to kind of pull together, the interests, a sufficient interest where, there's been a $10 million seed funding round, which isn't shooting the lights out. It's not like world-changing money, but it's an amount that's going to allow them, I think, to gain more visibility, gain more traction, reach more people. And I mean, obviously, with people like they've got involved, like Dr. Peter Thier and Andrew Huberman, they're going to reach audiences, which is important, but they obviously also need the backing to reach those audiences with their actual product. And what I also found interesting was how the author of this article mentioned that what their takeaway from this was that, the kind of GLP-1 or GLP-1 boom is being capitalized on by this specific, funding round. And GLP-1, for those who don't know, I didn't actually know what that stood for before reading this article. It's glucagon-like peptide 1 agonists, and it's a class of medications utilized to treat type 2 diabetes, mellitus, and obesity. So type 2 diabetes is the lifestyle-related disease, as a class of medications, they're among several pharmacological options for these endocrine diseases. And one example would be, it's extremely popular, Ozempic. If you're unaware of Ozempic, you can go do some research on that. But it helps people with weight management and to get that under control in order to, fight the good fight against insulin resistance, diabetes, the metabolic conditions that come with being overweight. And I think it's for me it's very promising again that there is this kind of drive towards fighting obesity, because we talk a lot about body positivity, of course, which I think is very important. But I think what's as important is that people are aware of the risks. So it's amazing to be comfortable in your skin, and it's really good to, love yourself and all those kinds of things that body positivity stands for. However, I think, living a certain way, it's kind of our duty to, as much as we can, people in the industry, to educate everyone on, obviously what the drawbacks of that are. And on both ends of the scale, malnourishment in kind of being malnourished, undernourished, or being overnourished. You've got too much and you've eaten too much, because both of those things have dire consequences on your health. And it's very promising for me, because we've seen a lot. You see a lot in the media stuff around body positivity, and you see the promotion of this thing. And it's, like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and people need to live their lives how they want to. It's promising for me to see that companies and investors and significant figures in the world and in the health space are pushing the narrative around, let's give you some tools to mitigate that, as much as we support inclusivity. Because at the end of the day, also, where I think the kind of the counter argument, so I find it ridiculous that there is one, but the counter argument with body positivity, is, it's kind of like people kind of say, oh, but it's unhealthy to look like that, full stop, which I think is a very misinformed stance, because healthy looks different for different people.
It does.
And also it's quite a difficult thing to observe, to be like, that person looks like that, therefore I infer that they are healthy, because you don't know that. But obviously on the extreme end of the spectrum, someone who's very kind of overweight, whatever that is kind of actually defined as, they need products like this to make their journey easier. Maybe not exactly Ozempic, but like a David protein bar, where they've got an issue with eating lots of chocolate bars, and they don't get in enough protein. So, they hate the flavor of all the existing things, or it gives them gut issues, or does whatever. So, having another option, I think, is really amazing that we are looking at it from that perspective. And also, I think things like Ozempic can cause a lot of damage. Obviously. And that's obviously not coming from any sort of scientific background. That's me just kind of hypothesizing that something that just sort of, that just sort of makes you not hungry. That sounds fucking bad for you. That doesn't sound good. Like, hunger is a vital kind of survival need. Like, you need to be hungry.
Imagine the knock-on effect that it has on an individual in the long term. Kind of like taking something and then indirectly it kind of affects your hunger or suppresses your appetite. That could have a knock-on effect on how your hormones are balancing. Like, at what time do certain hormones peak? What time do certain hormones drop? Like, the rest of your body's functions, like almost like involuntary functions, will be affected. Like the time of it, and your body clock will be completely affected. But it's unfortunate, because a lot of people are also in a place where, due to the landscape of standard of living and the way that people go through lives, where some people can afford to get access to all the good and whole foods, where some people can't, they put in a situation where this is the only choice to now change their lives. Because then you get people that are literally struggling, and they see this as a way out. They take it, their life changes forever. They can spend more time with their families, they can do more things that they couldn't do before. So it's an unfortunate way that things have worked out, and that's why it's so positive now, seeing this this kind of initiative come forward where they're pushing a sustainable way, and hopefully they will get the support that they need to go all the way through, and hopefully help people that really need it, and hopefully they can match up with partners that can push this product not only in a commercial way but in a real way, where they can help all the consumers that do take this product or do take up this product to utilize it the right way, and to then additionally take on like lifestyle changes that can then merge with the product and then create something that will help them to live better, you know? Because that is also the problem that comes about when people are like, a lot of people, you know, like what happens a lot of the time is people tend to make a commitment to changing their diet, and they say, oh, I've tried that for 4 weeks, it doesn't work. Then you ask them deeper, like, did you do any movement? Like, how was your day looking? Like, did you change anything with that? Or did you just change that? Because that can change a few things, but in order to cement it, you have to constantly put another aspect into that. Like, you have to constantly look at different parts of your life and see what else can you change. Because as soon as you compound all of that together, you get change, you get the next step. And as soon as you get that step, that progression, then life will get better. You know what I mean? So hopefully they can create a clear path for all the consumers as well.
I'd also be interested to see what the pricing point of David
That's
is.
super interesting.
I mean,
yeah.
maybe we can even try and find if any, if they've even got a product out in the market.
I wonder if
To
they'll do
see.
it actually a subscription basis.
Because I mean, it's like, it's kind of, I like that these wow, that's a cool website. I like that these, you can't do anything on the website without giving them your email. Okay, sorry, David. Actually, maybe I'll just give them my email. But I like, I like these solutions and I like these options. But like we've spoken about before, services in these kind of in this industry. Oh, fuck off! Now they want my phone number, David. Well,
Come on,
that's not a
David.
great first experience of the brand, is it? They're trying to get all my info, man. No, but stuff's often very expensive. A trainer is expensive. Buying these really nice health foods can be quite costly, can be expensive.
People
So
are often in situations where they can't afford to kind of like take a chance on that
100%.
extra investment. But it takes me back to this one thing I was watching earlier in my free time, this podcast, and it's this one boxer, and he was basically talking about risk and how the person who risks like everything, whether it's like risking kind of talking about your dream or your aspirations, there's so many things that come with that. So like, for example, if you're talking about your dreams and aspirations, you risk like people looking at you and ridiculing you. When you take a chance on chasing that, you risk failure. But the person who risks nothing will have nothing and will stay like that, and that does hit you deep, because then you think about it, and sometimes you face with a decision to make and you think, is this worth it? Should I make this investment? And if you do, if you can afford to and you make the investment and it changes your life, then it'll be one of the first investments that you make that will slowly change your life, and from there your decision making will become more tunnel vision as to what your lifestyle needs. But if you don't, you'll be in the same space that you are, same space that you were before making that decision.
for
So
sure.
that's massive if you think about it.
It is. It's. I want to be like a yes and, not a no but. However, I'm gonna no but it. It's sometimes difficult to have that perspective, and that's also something, I suppose, that maybe it's free in the sense that there can be information out there that says, take this one step and it'll be a catalyst to other
Yeah.
stuff. But it's difficult when you don't have, resources at your disposal.
Of course.
Because all you're kind of thinking of is like, how do I protect the resources I do have, as opposed to, what is a step I can maybe take to boost it? I don't know, or to boost them. But yeah, that is something I'm quite intrigued in, is to see where they price it at.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to see more entrepreneurship and more business aimed at that specifically, and it's it's funny, obviously, because we are both in positions where we can do that, because we're in the industry itself. But it's also kind of like what someone said to me the other day. I was chatting to, he was a surgeon or something, and he was talking about, he was explaining to, he said he's kind of the one who planted the seed that like medical things are too expensive.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact thread of the conversation, but he acknowledged it. But I think where he led the conversation was kind of like, people won't do it if there isn't an incentive to do it, a financial incentive to
Yes.
do it, which kind of leaves you between a rock and a hard place.
It does.
But you'd hope, I suppose, that, you know, instead of paying R1,000 for a consultation with a diabetes specialist, if you pay little bits here and there for healthier food,
Yeah.
maybe that's something that's going to, you know, it's going to be more digestible, no pun intended, for the person.
I think to add on to that, it's also like, it's so different for everyone, because at the same time, like, the way that I think about certain things, like when it comes to prevention, like, either might not even work for the person when they don't have that awareness, or they don't think that either decision is going to change their life, because they're in a place where their mind isn't clear. They're like thinking about so many things at once. They're not able to handle that thought process. They become easily anxious. You know, all these things, all the types of stimulations that is available to us. You know, that all the technology that's available to us, all the easy information, all the accessibility that's available to us. It's so stimulating that if you don't kind of like prepare yourself to engage with that, then it can just totally overflow you. And then you, like you said, like we said with the conversation that you had earlier, it can allow you to think that your day is running away from you, where it's not. From a perspective point of view, you have to look at it and be like, I'm letting this run away from me.
Exactly.
And as soon as you make that switch, which can be internal as well, we don't have to kind of like spend money on anything. You just have to kind of take time and reflect. Then you can start changing your life by that already, just in the mind, you know?
And I think there was something you said just now that really resonated with me, which is that, so you said that movement and exercise helps you think clearer and you want to share that with people. That, in a nutshell, is kind of the crux of my mission and my feeling towards this whole journey that we're on.
Yeah.
Which is that exercise and movement has helped me through some tremendously difficult things and made me a better person and helped me overcome seriously hectic challenges, or hectic's a poor word, but tough challenges.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a sin, it's a crime not to share that.
Yeah.
And I get so passionate about it because I think, would I be as appreciative of the life that I live right now without it? I don't think so. I don't think I would have been able to connect with you, connect with Mark. I mean, literally the reason why we are having this conversation is because, from my point of view, I don't know how you guys got here, but from my point of view, it's because I embarked on a journey with exercise.
Yeah.
And that brought me to you. It brought me to you. That's why we're having this conversation. And it's like, you know, I want to share. That's why I'm with, not why, but that's how Claire and I connected. Like that's insane. Like that is, and I get so like, I have to share this thing with everyone. I have to let everyone know how amazing this is.
As soon as you get the chance, like,
you know, it's like when I was a naughty school kid, you know, I think sport saved me. When I was, you know, feeling really kind of challenged around my identity, coming from, you know, an ethnic background that growing up was uncommon. You know, first generation mixed heritage in South Africa is still something that's quite uncommon.
Yeah.
And questioning shit. Gym, you know, it helped me through that, and exercise helped me through that. It was therapeutic. It's always been therapeutic.
Yeah.
When my mom passed away, it helped me through that. You know, breakups helped me through that. It's like, and I don't know, I can't think of anything else that's had such a profound impact on my life. You know, in terms of relationships, in terms of mindset, in terms of just like life's experience, that can come anywhere close to exercise, and it makes me so passionate to want to share that with people. And I think, when we go and we look at the bigger picture and we talk about affordability and we talk about access and we talk about, because this is the real problem that we face, is I can say it till I'm blue in the face, go exercise, go do this, make this change, do that, but it's difficult from a number of for
points.
a number of reasons. However, I think, and my mind kind of went full circle when I was speaking about, in order to, we are people who are in the space and we can action making the thing more accessible. And, why don't we do that? Why don't we do that is because obviously this is also our career. So we've got to eat, That's a simple fact. And we've spoken about it a lot in the last couple of weeks. In order for a thing to continue existing and for us to continue impacting people, you've got to charge for that.
It's got to go two ways, essentially.
But you've got to just at least bare minimum continue to exist, and there's a price on that.
Yeah.
However, what is within our control, and I think that's maybe why I've been so drawn towards content, and why we started this podcast, is because that is free. That is something where, and it speaks to the whole kind of, what is the word? Not a parable, starts with a P. It might be a proverb, but teaching a man to fish. So you're giving a man a fish, and I said it to you in the car the other day. You give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. You teach him how to fish. You feed him for a lifetime. Yes, we could give someone an Ozempic thing for a while, or give someone a session or whatever. But if you are making yourself accessible through content, you're sharing information, you're sharing knowledge and IP and stuff like that. Over time, I mean, if I think about, that's how I got educated in the space. Is like Steve Cook. It's like from when I was 15 years old, watching those. It was very cringely branded, but Swolger Nation series. Yeah. He taught me so much about all of this stuff, and it was free. Yeah. And by that, he has him and a bunch of other online mentors, because there's Mark Bell as well, who spoke about the cost of not doing what you love. And I think a bunch of circumstances plus influences like that are why the gym exists as well, this specific gym, because I sat with all this information and all this inspiration and all this
and this is the output
and this was the output that came from that. And I mean, it shows that if you put stuff out for free, and you don't focus so much on commercializing a thing, you can have a tangible impact. You can have a far-reaching impact. And I've messaged these people and I've said, that I've done this thing. I'm living what feels like an absolute dream, and it's because of you. Yes. I'm like you have done you have made an impact. You have, and it's, I think that is such an incredible thing about content, is, and I often use business jargon because that's my educational background, but the scale that you can reach with content is unbelievable. And it's and you will have noticed before, Mark, you can make a piece of content. It can take you, let's say, 12 hours to do the thing of the 2 hours of filming and the however long it takes you to edit it and the whatever. And you put that thing out there and it accumulates hundreds of thousands, millions of hours of watch time. Yeah. That disproportionate. And then
also engagement as well.
It's incredible. And it's you can take a thing, I mean, what blew my mind, and it's if you really think about it, it's so weird. I remember my mom and I filled in our pool at our old house. Yeah. And there was some water or something, and I don't know, it became sinking sand. And Michael, my mate, and Michael was you should run across the sinking sand. Ways. So and this is a funny, silly example, but it was he took out his phone. I think it was a 7 or 9 second video. And then it's just us giggling, and then me running and getting sucked into the sinking sand. Oh my gosh! And then we all just we just both started laughing. 3.5 million views on that video. That's unreal. Of and the thing is, it's not about the there's so many views. It's just that sit down and think about the maths of that for a moment. It's have you ever been to a full Cape Town stadium? That's 60,000 people. Yes. You cannot even fathom how many people 3.5 million is. And yes, it's people watching the video multiple times, but the sheer scale and reach of content that we are plugged into, more as creators than consumers, because consuming is cool, but like if you don't actually go and produce something with it afterwards, what is it?
Yeah.
But like you can do so much amazing stuff, and like we can get, for instance, the whole Andrew Huberman thing, and I know I'm going down a mad tangent rabbit hole, but it's like he's a Stanford professor,
Yeah.
and his shit is on here for free. Do you know how much it costs to go to
It's
Stanford?
consistent, eh? He never
It's
misses.
consistent and it's quality, and
Gets
it's
the
like
guests on,
I
and
don't think people understand how amazing that is.
the best part that I like about a lot of his podcasts is like, especially the one that I watched with David Goggins. That one's like top of my list because they break down actually what David Goggins is trying to say. Because a lot of people confuse him to be very like hardcore
Like,
all the
yeah.
time, but he actually breaks it down
Carry
in the
the boats and
podcast.
logs,
And he's
baby.
actually like, I'm trying to say that within your capacity. I remember he said he's trying to say that within your capacity, if you're not doing your best, then don't get upset. This is one point he made. He was like, don't get upset when things don't work out if you know you don't do your best. And
Is
that's
this
like
what
step
Goggins
one
said?
of like accountability. You know what I mean? And it makes so much sense. If you're having a day and you plan things, but you know you didn't prepare properly and it doesn't work, you can't get upset about that because you know you didn't do your best to prepare. And there were also other points where Huberman was talking to him about things that he did. And there were a lot of times where he was actually open to just saying like, I was actually wrong at this point of my life, and
That's
I didn't
amazing.
do this properly, and I did this research, but it actually was incorrect. Like someone that can also have that influence, but then also turn around on their word and say, that wasn't right. Now I'm trying to do things better. It's massive.
It is massive, and I think how we got here, to be honest, in terms of this conversation, is obviously talking about how awesome it is that money's being invested in health.
Yeah, into the right things.
Into the right things. And just, I suppose, reflecting on our involvement in the industry and what we are doing. And also, how do you democratize information and make more accessible education around being healthy and what steps you can take? Because I was kind of like when you said, if people just knew that doing this one thing would have a knock-on effect and it could change the trajectory of their lives if they aren't particularly satisfied with their lives, they would probably do it. They'd take all the free measures like going for a walk and doing this and doing that to actually improve things instead of maybe having to spend extra money on X, Y, and Z. And I think for me, the answer to that is content. And I think with content as well, obviously you want to be intentional and you want to have an idea of like what the message you're trying to share is. But I also believe that there's a lot of value in just sharing the process and sharing the journey and sharing what you are doing, because it can act as a journal. And oftentimes with journals, you go and you look back and you reflect, or you share a message around that, years in the future, and then you take a lesson from it. And I think that's also incredibly valuable. If you don't have like some sort of expertise, but you have a lived experience, sharing your lived experience can help somebody else.
And you can look back at that yourself. I mean, I look back at like, for example, different parts of my life where I've used exercise to get through. For example, like my dad passing. And there's one point where I started to journal and write down what I was saying to myself, how I felt, like what I'm feeling, what do I think of the things around me. I look back at it now and I'm like, wow, like it shows just how much of a space I was in. And if I look at my entries now, if I look at how I'm talking about things now, how I look at things now, it shows just how much, like, it shows how capable we are. Like, you could go to the lowest of the lows, but if you don't give up, you can come out and get something so much better on the other side. And you can be like 10 times, 20 times happier than you were before, because sometimes it goes like this and it goes up and it goes like this. And then sometimes like life is just continuously going down and you just like, when is this going to stop? Like, it's like door after door after door and you get no other side. And then you just keep on persisting. And it takes a lot of reflection, constant reflection in your own shoes and then also the people around you. And then as soon as you get to the other side, you actually forget about that process. And that's why it's so important to document it. Because when you get past that and you break away and you look back, you're like, wow, look how far I've come. But I don't even notice that. I don't feel it. Because constant human behavior is to always push further. Naturally, it's to always strive forward. And that's why we're so hard on ourselves when things don't go right. Because we always think about oh, remember when I was like this? Remember when I was like this? You don't look at the now, like how much you're doing now, you know. And to the other point that you were saying, where it's like, if people could only understand what making a certain choice and how to change their life would be, another point that I have to add to that is that when people don't make the right decisions, and this is all dependent on the person, because what's right and what's wrong is totally different for everyone.
Yes.
But from a health perspective, from like what I can talk about in terms of like um, whether it's eating enough throughout the day or making sure you're getting hydrated, we are actually so lucky, because the human body is so capable of surviving with and without water. And here you have like individuals sometimes saying, I don't need water, I'm fine. Of course, our bodies are capable of not having water, but for extended time, you'll feel the long term effects.
For
Our
sure.
bodies are capable of not eating food for a certain time, but you'll feel the long term effects. That's why, for a sustainable lifestyle, you want to make sure you have those aspects ticked off. You know, I think we take advantage of our bodies sometimes when we don't do things or we miss things, but that's what it's intended for. It's intended for missing things. Like we should have that leeway in order, like, oh, I missed this meal, I missed this, it's fine.
You triggered a mad thought.
But you shouldn't like go out day to day and be like, I'm definitely not gonna eat at all. I'm gonna
No.
eat 9 in the morning and I'll eat tonight at 12. Like, no, that's not sustainable, and you will feel the knock-on effects after that.
I follow a guy who does that, but he doesn't do it for physical. He does it for, it's kind of like a philosophical thing. And I know we're all a bit on borrowed time right now, but I wanted to close off by saying the human body and the topic that you spoke about, there's certain things that it's capable of and it needs and whatever. I was on holiday and I saw this video of a workhorse. It was a Frisian, one of those really beautiful horses that has like the long hair on its on
Yes.
its upper thing and goes over, and it's like really like fris, like it's a jacked horse.
Yo.
And they basically took a video of this horse doing work in the forest, like pulling logs and like doing these kinds of activities.
Yeah.
And in the comments, some people were bummed out, and others were like, do you realize how happy this animal is doing that? That is what that animal, like, it, if it doesn't do that, it gets bummed out.
Exactly.
It gets depressed. It needs to be worked. And it's the same thing. One of my former partner's brother was he's a dog trainer, and he trains German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois. A lot of people have been getting Malinois at the moment because they're beautiful, and they have a lot of problems at home with the dog because they don't work them, because they're like, this is such a beautiful dog and whatever, and they buy it and they take it for a walk once a day, and they come home and this thing is like, ripped their hamster to shreds and like bitten through the couch and like mauled the fish tank and stuff, and it's like and they get upset with the dog, but that thing needs to do tracking once a day. It needs to do bite work. It needs to do like heel work. It's a very intelligent, driven animal, and obviously that's one breed to the next or whatever. But I think there are a lot of humans who are like that, and a lot of humans who feel sometimes maybe not so well mentally, or not so good or happy or whatever, who, if they went and explored a bit of like strenuous, vigorous exercise, which maybe they don't feel like in that moment, they're probably going to feel great afterwards, because your body has needs that you don't really have a choice about. Like, you're just hungry. That's just a need in order to survive.
Interesting take, because if you think about it, like a cool case study would be, I don't know if it's been done before, but if you
Taking
made
humans for
accessibility-
walks on leashes.
If you no. if you created accessibility around different movement programs for people, made it super easy for them to just get into it, I wonder if it would obviously change their lifestyles, but also give them something that they've been looking for. And if the issues that they're facing, whether it's personal or they've had it for a long period of time, would go away, because the thing that they've been missing is actually within the thing that's been there in front of them all along that they could have done.
But they just haven't given it a go.
Exactly.
Because
It's
maybe
interesting.
Mm,
So like
would be
someone
cool.
that maybe doesn't do any activity, struggling with like anxiety, for example, and they start to get into like doing movement on their own pace, in their own time, where they're comfortable, where they can comfortably do it and not get charged. how will their life change, and how will that, like, how can we track that, and obviously use that, and then kind of share that with other people so that they can be encouraged to get into it. That'd be massive.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, dear listener, dear
Thank you so
sweet
much.
listener. Thank you a lot. It's been great to have this conversation and have you a part of it. But yeah, we'll catch you in the next episode. And if there's a question, I say that in the outro. Thank you for listening. See you next time.
Boom.
David protein bars, baby. Davido. Thank you so much for listening to the show, guys. We love answering specific questions. So if there's anything you want to know, leave a comment or reach out to us directly at HorizonZA on Instagram, or email us at movement@horizongym.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Seb Prentice, and this is Beyond Physical.